Hey, what's up, guys? Today, let's talk about authentication in Angular 2. I've already did a video on this called titled Angular 2 authentication, I guess. But the thing is that the router has completely become obsolete and a new router has been introduced. So, in my last video, I showed you how to create and configure routes using the new router. So I thought that in this video I should touch upon how to do authentication using the new router in Angular 2. So let's get started on that. Let's start from where we left off in the previous video. The previous video, I guess I just created a repo, this Angular 2 new routing repo. So let me go ahead and clone that one. uh, oh sorry. Okay, this is done now. So let me just cd into that and then run npm install. Okay, this is done. So let's go ahead and open this up in our code editor. Now if you notice in package.json we are using the rc3, right? But rc4 has been released, so we'll just go ahead and update that. Okay, and then save this, run npm install once again, let it happen. While this happens, we'll just go ahead and start with our work. So like I said, where we left off the last time was we just created new routes for two components, the first and second component, and then what else did we do? We just bootstrapped this to run along with our application. That's what we did, right? And then the routes got invoked and it ran fine. So in dashboard dot sorry, not dashboard, in app.component.ts we made it in such a way that it worked like a dashboard for us. We had two links and then a router outlet where the views would get injected, right? So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and create a file called auth manager or something like that, and then write some code in it to prevent the user from navigating to a protected page. That is, if the user tries to navigate to a page, it should check whether the user is authenticated first and then allow the user to go to that page, like that. So I'll just split the workflow into three parts. The first one would be to convert one of our screens here, either the first page or the second page, into a login screen and make the other screen protected page, right? So only upon login the user should be able to see the second page. That's the first thing we need to do. The second thing we need to do is the actual authentication. We need to have a backend running, and then getting the username and password from the user. We need to compare it with the list of available users in our database, and then send back whether the user is authenticated or not, or something like that. That's the second part. The third part one will be the actual root authentication, root guard, which we are going to implement now. That is based upon the response from the backend. We need to either navigate the user to that particular page or tell him that you are not authenticated, or you are not authorized to access that page, right? So these are the three parts which we'll be focusing on in this video from here on. So first, let's get started with the first part. That is the one where I said I need to change one of these into a login page. I'll go ahead and make the first page into a login page. Okay, first I'll open up the HTML and then remove these. And to make the page, this is not essentially needed, but to make the page a little bit pretty, I'm going to make use of the material design, like materialize CSS framework, in order to make it look pretty. So I'll just take the dependencies and then paste it here, external dependencies. I'm using CDNs so that it's much less of a hassle, right, rather than installing it. And then what I'll do is go back to my HTML. I'll copy this code. I've already got some code here, guys. In case you need this code, you just go here. In case you feel like not typing, I'll just make a repo of this too, but just in case, I'll just show you from where I got this Angular 2 authentication. Our previous thing is there, right? From here only I took that code. So let's just continue this. So then the center div, I need to get it right. I'll get this too, and then copy this, paste it here. Okay, now I have beautified the page somewhat, right? So next thing we need to do is here, if you notice, there will be username and password and login, etc., etc., right? I'll start writing that here so that I can wire that up seamlessly. So local user, and then this will have a username, this will be a string, and a password, which will again be a string. Okay, then there was a login method, right? Login. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to have a service. That service will get the username and password from the user, and then make a HTTP request to the backend which is running. Make a HTTP request, and then the backend will perform actions about authenticating the user. If the user is available in the DB, then it will send back a token. If not, it will send back like an error message or something. That's what we are going to do, right? So in order to do that, first we'll generate a service. For that, ng generate service, and the service name I'll give it as auth. Okay, that's done. So I have it here, right? Auth. Usually the services, it's advisable to keep it inside the shared directory, guys. Since this is a demonstration, I'll just continue the work here, but usually it's advisable to keep it inside the shared directory and the components in separate directories. So here we get this experiment. This is not an error. Actually, I didn't update my VS Code editor, so that's why this thing is getting displayed, this experimental decorators. If you notice here, the tsconfig.json, I have already enabled the experimental decorators to true, but still anyway, that's not related to us. We'll just ignore this for the time being, and then proceed on with our work. Import HTTP, and what else, headers are needed, right? Since this is authentication from @Angular HTTP. You know what, I think this also will be available here. We can just go ahead and copy it from here, I guess, in order to save some time, obviously. So yeah, that's available. I'll just copy this entire thing and then paste it here, and then have is authenticated boolean equal to false. Okay, what else? Oh, we need to have a authenticate now. Okay, this is method. Oh, what's wrong with this? Okay, now why is this showing errors? Oh, HTTP, I didn't create this thing, right? So private HTTP okay, remove this underscore. Now this is fine, right? So this dot is not is logged in, with this is authenticated. Here also it is authenticated. There's a shortcut key. Is authenticated. And what's the problem with promise? For now it's not needed. We'll just go ahead and remove this, and then remove this too. Okay, now we have a simple I'll just modify this a bit. Okay, now we have a simple authenticate now method. What this will do is it will get the user credentials from the user from the login screen, and then make a HTTP request to this localhost 333 authenticate REST endpoint, and then if the user is authenticated, it will just set the auth key in the local storage of the browser, and then set is authenticated to true. That's all. This is what is happening here. Now we'll get the actual backend. For the backend, I'll just simply use one of my older backends which I created long back. So this one, Ionic Authentication, it's still famous, right? Okay, now I'll just go ahead and clone this and use this. I'll do this in the other terminal which I have opened. Okay, I'll just like git clone and then paste this. This is a backend which I coded, guys. I have a tutorial on this too and some videos on this too. You can go ahead and see that. So we are not using any third-party authentication backends like that for security. We are just writing our own and then making use of it. So I'll just go ahead and do Ionic Authentication and just type node server.js connection. Oh, okay, we don't have the MongoDB running, right? cd new routing and then mongo. Okay, mongo db path home slash home slash new routing slash data slash db. Okay, this is done. Now if Mongo is running, now if we just do node server.js, it's connected and server is running, right? So yeah, this is done. The backend is running. As for the front end, okay, we have a neat authentication service here. We'll just go ahead and make use of the service here in our first component.ts, first page component.ts. I'll first import auth service, right? Auth service from /auth dot service. Okay, since it's available outside of this, and then here inside the login, I'll just call this one. So this dot auth service, I'll create a local thing here. Private auth service. This dot auth dot authenticate now local. This dot local user, right? This dot local user. Now I'm calling the authenticate now with the local user credentials, which the user will enter in the login page, and then it will check up with the backend which is running here, as we can see. And then if the user is authenticated, it will set the local variable. Set a variable in local storage with the key auth _key. That's what's happening here. So then we'll go back to the third part of our application, that is writing an auth manager. I'll write it inside app itself as of now. So I'll just new file and then auth manager.ps. This is the critical part. So I'll just make this as an injectable from at angular /core. Okay, and then I'll make use of 4 different components from the router module. So the first one would be activate, and second one would be router. Third one would be activated root snapshot. Fourth one would be router state snapshot. All these will come from router, from @angular /router. Okay. Now what we'll do is, first of all, we'll do the decorator injectable, and as usual export something. Export class auth manager implements can activate, right? Can activate. And inside this, what I'm going to do is first of all I'll have a constructor as usual, constructor, and then since I'm implementing that, I need to write that, right? Can activate will contain two parameters. Next will be the activated root snapshot, and the state will be the router state snapshot. Okay, and this will what I'll do here is, if window.local storage dot get item, this will be auth underscore key. If window.local storage dot get item return true. If not I'll just console.log you must be logged in, and then router, I didn't give this right, private router, and then this will be this dot router dot navigate. We'll pass in the first, since we are not authenticating, we are passing the first one, and then return false. Okay, so what we have done here is very simple. We'll make use of this can activate here, then you'll understand it better. So I need to first of all get that thing right. Import, what was it, auth manager from /auth manager. Okay, and here whenever the root is coming as just so in simple terms, what we have done so far is, whenever the route to be navigated is the second, then this will check whether the second page component is like a protected route or not. So to check that, we need to have some specific code to check that, right? So that for checking that, we are using this can activate property, and as a condition we are giving this auth manager. So what auth manager contains is, it will just check whether the browser contains a local storage item called auth underscore key. If it's there, it will just return true, which means that the user is authenticated, and then he can be shown that page, or he can be navigated to that page. If not, then the user is not authenticated, and the user must be navigated back to the login page. That's what we have done so far. So as of now, let's just finish this up by bootstrapping our newly created services to run along with the application. So what all we should do, auth manager, which we created new, and then one more we created new, right? Auth.service. Okay, we'll just give that there itself directly. So we'll open up main.ts, give auth manager, or we can just make use of that also here itself. Here instead of this auth.service, right? Auth.service, and then auth manager and auth service, and then one more thing, HTTP providers we need to give, right? HTTP providers. HTTP providers is not from here. HTTP providers will be from this. Rectangular/HTTP. Okay, so then we'll just auth manager, auth service, HTTP providers. Okay, this is done. We'll just remove the test cases so that they don't create a problem for us. Okay, now let's see what happens. Server is running, backend is running fine, DB is running fine. We'll just give ngserver here. Hopefully it should run fine. Let's see. Even if it doesn't run fine, we'll just go ahead and debug. No issues there. Okay, there's an error. What's the error? component.spec, we actually like removed that test case, right? So okay, we didn't save that. Okay, no error now. So let's see whether nothing runs. Wow, the login page is changed, right? We have login page now. Console, we'll just give. I have created a test user already. I'll just make use of that user account itself. I'm just logging in. Nothing gets displayed. Let's go ahead and check with the resources. Local storage. Okay, the auth key is present here. It's set, right? So which means that our authentication works fine. And here also in the server we have a log here, post authenticate one. So our code so far has worked fine. Let's try accessing the second page. Second page works because this is there, right? So we'll just remove this, delete this, refresh. Now we don't have a key here, right? If we try to access the second page, it doesn't go there. It just says you must be logged in, right? It says you must be logged in. So our authentication works fine, guys. This is what we wanted to show. I wanted to show you guys. So now you might wonder, right? There are some small things that need to be taken care of. For example, if I click login here, it should directly take you to the second page, right? Instead of that, it's just saying here, and then I have to go on and click. So let's just do some simple modification, tweakings in our code to enable that functionality. For that, what we'll do is go to our service file and then wrap this entire thing in a promise like we did last time. So return new promise and then resolve. I'll cut this off, paste it here. And here I'll just give resolve this dot is authenticated. Okay. Yeah, that is done. So now we can go here and then use let check now. Since we are using a promise for the asynchronous operation, we can just give a check now dot then. This will be a function again. If okay, we will return a boolean value will be returned here, right? If response, then we can just navigate that guy to the second page. So for that, I'll just import router from angular slash router, and then make use of that router here. Router, and then here inside this I'll just give if response, then this dot router dot navigate slash second. If not, then I should give else you must be console.log, you must be logged in, right? Okay. So, and we also need to no, sorry, this won't be you must be logged in. This should be, actually that guy is already trying to invalid user. Okay, and that's it, guys. Now let's see whether it takes us to the second page. Okay, we'll first of all go ahead and remove this, delete, refresh this once. Okay, now if I try to go to second page, it's saying you must be logged in. If I click here, give the username and password and click on login, wow, it navigates us, it takes us to the second page, right? So our code works fine as of now. In case, let's just try out one more scenario. We'll delete this, go back to the first page. Now it shouldn't take us to the second page. Okay, in case we give wrong thing, and then click on login. Oh, the backend throws up an error. Okay, the backend itself throws up an error, guys, obviously, to do that, right? Anyway, so far our entire thing works, right? So what else do we need to do? This suppose let's just okay, in this case, when I try to click on first page, it comes back to the login page, right? But it shouldn't take us back to the login page, right? That's the whole point of authentication. It should say you're already logged in, right? So let's go ahead and write some simple code in order to do that. That could be handled directly in the routes.ts, I think. Here itself, not routes.ts, sorry. Where is auth manager, I think. Auth manager. Here itself we can handle that part of code, right? This next will have a if next dot URL is there, right? This will contain our path, guys. This URL is an array actually. So I'll just take the first element of the array, and path will be this path, first or second, which we specify in our router. So if this is equal to first, which means that we are getting we are trying to navigate to the login page. If this is first, then what we'll do is I'll check whether this there is a key, the local storage key. So window dot local storage dot get item, and I'll have an auth key. Okay, and yeah, if the key is there, then I'll just say console.log you are already authenticated, or not authenticated, logged in, and I'll return false. If this key is not okay, here I have used 2 lines. If this key is not there, else return true. Okay, and also in the second page dot component, we'll just create a slide. I'll copy this, take it here. Second page, I'll just create a small modification. I'll just have a logout button, and then this will be logout, right? Okay, and then here I'll just have a method which says logout, and this will be, what this will do is window dot local storage dot remove item auth underscore key. Not only that, it will just take me back to the import router from @angular/router. Okay, I'll just create a private router, and this dot router dot navigate /first. Now in order to make this work, we need to give the auth manager to this root also, right? The first root also. So let's go to routes.ts, and then here also we should give can activate auth manager. Okay, so now whenever the first root comes into picture, it will automatically go to auth manager and check whether this root has any conditions to navigate to or something like that. So let's just go ahead and see whether this works fine. Okay, I am in the first page as of now. I'll go to resources. There are no keys. Okay, no problem. If I try to access the second page, it is showing you must be logged in. Obviously it should show that. I'm in the first page, so I'm not going to try to access the first page now. I'll just click on login and then type my credentials. click on login, it takes us to the second page. Okay, that is the logged in page, which is protected, and we have a logout button. Now if I try to access this first page again, it shouldn't allow me. That's the whole point of our code, right? It is just showing you are already logged in, right? So it's not allowing me to access the first page if I am already logged in. And how does it know if I am already logged in? It just checks up the local storage, sees if there is a key like that. If there is one, then it doesn't allow me back to the it recognizes me as an authenticated user and doesn't allow me back to the login page. That's what's happening here. So now in case I click on the logout button, which we just created, it takes me back to the login page, and as you can see, the key also gets cleared. So I think I have made it clear for you guys. This is how authentication can be done using the new router. It's pretty much a simple process. I have just detailed out a lot of code here, and maybe probably confused you guys a little bit, but I'll upload this entire repo on GitHub. You can go through the code. It's pretty much easier than it was with the previous router actually. So yeah guys, this is how authentication is done. If you found this video helpful, kindly share it with someone else and help them too. And if you like this video, kindly hit on the thumbs up button. It would be some sort of appreciation to me. So yeah guys, I'll talk to you guys in my next video then. Bye.